All right, everybody, welcome back to the #1 television show in the history of the entire universe. I'm Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, and The Lonesome Crown, all three books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today, I'm going to be reviewing Watchers by Dean Koontz, or Dean Koontz, whichever you prefer. For some reason, floating in my house amidst all the bookshelves and little closets and boxes full of books I found that I have 3 separate copies of this book. I've got this one with the price tag on it, which I tried to at one point scrape off, but it was just leaving a bunch of gummy messes. By the way, bookstores that put tags or any stickers on a book, I don't feel bad that Borders went out of business because they did this. I don't feel bad at all. They deserved what they got. Any other bookstore that does this bullshit, oh man, just stop. So anyway, I've got this version, Dean Koontz. Old school cover, really like the cover. Since we're talking about the covers, you know we always review the covers first because I love graphic design and cover illustration. I really like this cover. It's really cool. This old school, late 1980s horror novel cover. It is dope. We've got the misty, dark house there with the light shining through, and then the little dog paw thing at the bottom you can see. Now, this is the more modern version, and we can compare and contrast these. I guess this one's okay, but well, look, there's a little doggy on the back, which is cool because this book is about golden retrievers. I still like this one better. And then we've got the third version, which says Dean Koontz. I mean, this one dropped in from another universe because 99.9% of my Dean Koontz novels just say Dean Koontz. I do have a couple that say Dean Koontz, and I have no idea why. Some of them say Dean Koontz. But anyway, it's got the... So all 3 of them have different things going on. And then you would think that, well, these would have the same back side to them, but they don't. Publishing, like Mother Nature, is a mad scientist, baby. A mad scientist. Who knows? Which is crazy because this book is about mad scientists doing crazy things. And it is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Dean Koontz novel. So let's put these over here. We'll just hold one of them up. Came out in 1987. Now, this, in the afterword of this version, Dean Koontz talks about how this is his favorite book he's ever... And not only that, but 90% of the people that come to him in book signings name Watchers as their favorite Dean Koontz book. And he's like, man, I wrote that way back in 1987. Was that the peak of my career? Was that the... Just like hair metal was the peak of all music in the history of the world, from Beethoven, Bach, to the Beatles, to Nirvana, and all the way to Snoop Dogg and King Von. Hair metal was the pinnacle. And that was about 1987. Watchers, 1987. Pinnacle of Dean Koontz's career, according to his fans and himself. It is one of his favorite books. He says it was the funnest book he ever wrote. He had the most pleasure writing this book. It was turned out exactly the way he wanted it. It was his most personal book also, because it's about dogs. It's about his, it's about little labs. And we'll get into that in a minute. And it's got all, and he said it encompasses all the themes that are really important to me, like the healing power of love and friendship, the struggle to overcome our past, and the struggle that we have dealing with death and the afterlife and our relationships with God, and secret government programs and institutions that with science and viruses and robotics and AI and biology, and this is a book about a government lab ultimately, and we find out kind of slowly, and this isn't spoilery because it says it right here in the description. A government lab that has created two things: a dog that can communicate, very astonishingly talented dog, and a monster of brutal, grim, just a killing machine, basically. So, how does this thing start out? This thing starts out with a bang and is unrelenting and does not give up. Starts out, the opening scene is a fellow named Travis. Now, we don't know for sure, but it seems like Travis, as we follow him on his journey, is going up into the mountains to possibly self-delete himself, if you know what I'm saying. Can't say the word on YouTube or we get canceled and demonetized and the video gets yeeted right off of the screen. Self-deletion. We think that seems to be what he's hinting at. Well, once he gets in the mountains, he meets up with a very odd and protective golden retriever that seems to be lost in the woods. And then he is stalked by some killers, assassins, and oddly enough, the dog kind of accidentally, but maybe on purpose, protects him from this assassination. And then he kind of befriends this dog. And then we kind of cut to another scene where we get to Vincent, who's my favorite character. He is an assassin, and he shoots Dr. Weatherby in a very, very sharply written, very tense assassination scene. And it's gripping, and I love the way Dean Koontz really wrote that scene. And it really sets up our character, our assassin, Vincent, as just a ruthless, one of the most ruthless assassins and killers in all of the books that I've read in my whole library of 5,000 horror novels, fantasy novels, science fiction novels, thriller novels, mystery novels. I mean, this guy, Vincent, is just a badass. And there's a reason. We find out there's a reason why he's so cold-blooded. Then we get to another character. Well, anyway, Vincent does his assassination stuff. Travis, who's found the dog, really starts to suspect that the dog is more than he seems, that the dog is way smarter than he initially thought, and he initially thought the dog was pretty smart. Then we go to a scene with a character named Nora, and this is a creepy, just Dean Koontz-esque, just the way Dean Koontz writes these creepy scenes with these creepy... So there's a TV repairman that comes to repair Nora's television. And he's creepy as... Now, this book was written in 1987. I don't even know if there are TV repairmen even anymore. I mean, back in 87, you would get your TV repaired. A guy would show up. Now you just take the TV and toss it in the trash and buy another, I think. At least that's what I do. But anyway, TV repairman, he is creepy. He starts stalking Nora. So we've got these three characters, Travis, Nora, and Vincent. They are the ones that we see this book through the lens of. And Travis ends up naming the golden retriever. Is it a lab or I think it was a golden retriever. I keep mixing up Labradors and golden retrievers. They look the same to me. But anyway, he ends up naming the dog Einstein because he discovers that the dog can actually communicate with him through symbols and other various means. We find out that throughout the book that there's a secret government program that causes viruses, teaches dogs to communicate, and creates monsters that of unthinkable violence. And then another thing is the reason the dog is being created to be a smart dog is so because they want to use dogs in warfare, and they want to use dogs as spies in warfare because they think, well, nobody's gonna think that a dog is spying on us. I think if you eventually they might figure it out. They might figure out why are there so many dogs around? Where do they come from? Our enemy seems to know every move we're gonna make. Where are all these dogs coming? In my mind, even if they don't think that the dogs are smart, they might be like, well, maybe the dogs are wired. Maybe I'm overthinking the whole government conspiracy to make dogs as spies and make them be able to communicate through symbols and different things. And that would be like really good for war, because I'm like, eventually people would just be like, well, why don't you just put a microphone on a dog? You don't need the dog to be smart. Well, maybe you do. Maybe the dog needs to know to stick around and spy. I don't know, maybe because dogs, you could train a dog. I mean, a cat, you would not want to send a cat, because the cat would not go where you'd want it to go. The cat, you could put a little bug on it, a little microphone chip bug thing on it to record and spy for you, but the cat would do whatever the hell it wants. It would not. But you could maybe train a dog. I don't know. I'm way overthinking this. That's not the point of any of this book. The point is, genetically altered life forms are being created by secret government agencies, and these three characters have to deal with it, and there's a dog in it, and it's a fable of trust and love and imagination and unrelenting suspense, powerful moments of pure, shocking terror, scenes that slowly build up in creepiness to climaxes that are just so tense between characters, and it's just absolutely a wonderful horror novel / thriller / Dean Koontz masterpiece. I just think this book is perfect. With the aside that I don't get why the government would want to have spy dogs. But in this book they do. 10 out of 10, folks. Watchers is seriously dope!